What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Did It Work? This is where I take tutorials and step-by-steps from across the internet, try them out, and see if they work. Today I'm looking at some of the methodologies on the Monument Hobbies Discord server. You can also find them on their Instagram sometimes. And they post these little tutorials and step-by-steps every so often. And a few of them caught my eye recently because of another project I've got going on. Yeah, I bought this as part of a bigger project that I'll deal with later, but this specifically caught my attention because it really does apply to two of the methodologies that caught my eye. The bronze armor, the weathered bronze armor methodology, and the green oxide verdigris wash. Both of those have a place to make this look the way it's supposed to. If you've ever seen this in one of the Disney parks or seen a picture, these are perfect. So I figured, why not give them a try, see how these work, see if it's really that easy. So the first thing I had to do is get them ready to work on. Loaded them into the spray booth and primed them with Pro Acryl's black primer, making sure to start around the edges, get inside the mouth, the eye sockets, all the little problematic areas first. You can also see that I've got some extras in the back. I like having things to practice on before it really matters. So I like having little extras scattered around, primed and ready to go. Okay, step one, basing the entire model in dark jade. This is one of the first signature series. I believe this came from the Vince Venturella line. And I still had the airbrush out from priming these models, so it made just as much sense to load the dark jade into the airbrush, give these a good, solid, healthy spray. Make sure you get all the little recessed areas, because I think that's going to matter, especially around the edges and the underneath. And this dries a beautiful dark green color. It's a great place to start. Okay, on to step two. We're going to use green oxide. This is a new signature from Ben Comet's, one of the new signature paints. And we're gonna load this into a palette and we're gonna use a barrel brush. I like these perfectly cylindrical round brushes because it kind of focuses where your bristles go, and then you can turn it on its edge to get kind of a sharp to fit in between places. I like it being focused versus a lot of dry brushes are kind of flayed and going in every which direction. So this is a good easy way to focus where you're trying to stipple this stuff in. Load up the brush, kind of like a dry brush, stab into a paper towel, get some of the excess off so you're not overloading the model. And I'm going over the entire thing. This isn't a place where I'm going to try to focus the light. I just want to break up the entire surface of the dark jade, give it some tonal variation. So going over the entire thing, except the letters, I'm trying to avoid those. So yeah, this is coming along nicely. Okay, step three. Now we're supposed to stipple on turquoise, and I'm going to use that same barrel brush. I'm going to use a little bit less of this turquoise paint, and now I'm going to try to just focus it. This is where I'm going to start to try to put it just across the tops and where I think rain and weather and exposure would affect it the most. And let's be real, we're going to cover up the majority of this with bronze anyway, so I'm not going to overthink it. And yeah, I win the award for bad framing in this video. Woohoo! But you can see just going across the tops of the orb, the top of the head, the edges of the frame, trying to pick out the areas where I think weather would affect it the most. Again, it'll get covered. I'll know it's there. So following the recipe as instructed, and stippling in this turquoise color. And we're going to use this turquoise color again later for something else. So it'll all connect. We'll be using the same colors. It'll be nice and cohesive. So really just catching the tops of stuff. This is the only time so far that I'm trying to focus the light or pay attention to where it would fall. And this alone right here, by the time you're done with these three colors, it's got such a good color to it. I could see a lot of people using this half of the recipe for other projects. You need to make something look like old aquatic bronze that's been underwater for 50 years or whatever. This could work really well. So far this is looking really nice. These three colors stack really well. Okay, step four. Now we dry brush the entire thing with dark bronze. This is another new signature line from Matt Sexwish. The dark bronze, we're going to cover a good portion of what's there. Now, their example in the original tutorial shows a lot more of their green coming through, and I'm going to cover a lot more of the green than they did initially. but we're still going to follow the recipe. So I took my time with this one. I really made sure to not put on too much paint. It's way easier, especially with dry brushing. I like dry brushing. I'll spend 15-20 minutes working on something and follow the whole less is more kind of approach. And you can already see this is radically changing, starting to stack this color, this metallic on top of this cool palette underneath it. And it looks really dope. This thing, I've always liked putting a patina on some sort of metal, whether you're aging up silvers or doing this kind of destructive, aged kind of patina on brass or copper. I've always dug this kind of work. So I geek out and spend 15-20 minutes dry brushing and know that I can always put more on. It's easier to go light and put more on later than it is to glop it on and can't take it off. So yeah, like 20 minutes, there you go. So yeah, this is looking really good. I'm pretty psyched. Okay, step 5. Now we're gonna go over all that dark bronze and cover most of it with bronze. This is just a regular metallic. It's not from a signature series. It's just a regular metallic paint from Monuments Pro Acryl line. And now I'm using kind of a dough hoof because I like being able to kind of angle it and come down. I'm going to start to pay attention to light a little bit, but I'm not going to stress on it. I'm going to do that with the last step. So I'm going to go over the majority of this area, but not everything. I just like the shape of this brush. It kind of gives you a way to get into some of the angled areas that under the collar, around the edges. It's a narrower brush, so trying to get along the sides of things, but it's still, you can turn it sideways and it's a little wider. It's one of my favorite dry brushes. I use makeup brushes. I've said it in some of my other videos. You know, you can buy a grip of makeup brushes cheap and put them through the ringer and not feel guilty because they're like 50 cents a piece. So, all right, stacking this bronze. It's already really adding a lot of dimension on top of the dark bronze and just the little places where you can see the verdigris showing through. I'm trying to focus again on the top edges of the orb in the middle, around the edges of the letters, especially kind of along all the edges of the letters, because I want those to pop later. Okay, step 6, the last step here for this recipe, we're going to use light bronze. And this I'm going to just try to put on the most extreme edges, the most extreme highlights, the topmost edges of the outer frame. And I'm going to try to highlight the orb in the middle and give it a little bit of volume, kind of like contouring, I guess. Just a hint at the top edge of the orb and catch what I think are the most important details, plus the edges of the text, especially along the bottom. If you flip your model upside down, you can usually get a good idea of what you need to hit. I like to flip, a lot of times when I'm doing this last step, I'll flip it upside down and work upside down so that I can just hit what I'm seeing and know that my eye is the direction that the light would be going and just hit the top edges of stuff. I thought it would be annoying to do the whole thing upside down, so I'm doing my best here. So yeah, trying to catch especially the edges of the text. This is going to be important later to help with something else, using the other recipe at the end. And I'm really working the top half of the orb. I don't want to do too much at the bottom. It's subtle. I think from 20 feet away you may not notice. But yeah, I want the top edge a little bit, that top part of the orb brighter than the bottom. And of course, picking out all the highest highlights. And yeah, this right here looks really good. I'd be pleased with this. If this was the final result, I'd be happy with that. Okay, so weathered bronze armor, did it work? Yeah, here's the little ones, the little samples, and the big one that matters. Did it work? Yeah, I think weathered bronze armor is a huge win. Like I said, you could use this for a lot of things, depending on how much of the green you let show through. This could be used for aquatic project, it could be any type of weathering. It's a good solid methodology. I like it. It was easy to do. It was an hour-long project, if that. Paying more attention to what I was doing and working slowly and building this up. So yeah, I'm really happy with this alone. I definitely think it worked. This is something I'll probably use again and again. The green oxide verdigris wash, we're going to see how this works with these products. I've used other stuff for this before, but I'm excited to try it out this way. So yeah, let's check that out. Okay, so if you follow the recipe, it says 1 part paint, and we're going to use that green oxide again from before. I like that we're using the same color palette, so if, things will connect, it'll have a cohesive feel. We're also going to use glaze and wash medium. The recipe says 1 drop of paint, 2 drops of glaze medium, and then 3 drops of water. And the water I use has a little bit of flow aid in it. So you mix up this really, really thin slurry of a wash, and you use it just like you would any other wash. But what I'd like to do, or what I want to try to do, is something a little bit different. So after I make this ridiculously huge puddle of this wash that I will not use all of, I thought I was going to use a lot more than I did. So I made a huge batch of it, counted every little drop, and mixed up this huge puddle and ended up using maybe half of it. So lesson learned, but easy enough, simple to mix up. What I want to try to do is something a little bit different, where I spray the surface of the model with water first, and then use a paper towel and rub most of it off, and then use water's natural capillary action to get this stuff to run the way it would in the rain. So yeah, get it wet, dry half of it off, and then slather the stuff on there, and it's so thin you can see it just rains down the surface. It runs exactly how you want it to. So using a brush to sop up some of this stuff, this is going to take a couple applications. It's going to take some patience, work a little, let it dry a little. Yeah, baby steps. And then coming back with a smaller focus brush, I'm trying to especially build up around the bottoms of the letters. That's important for the next step too. But going in and getting these to kind of almost glow up from the bottom is kind of fun. It fits the Haunted Mansion theme. It fits the sign really well. And then adding some of the green back to the face, the chin, the hair, the sides of the collar. And again, add it, wipe it off. If it's too much before it dries, you can always get it off there. It's a slow and steady process, but it pays off in the end. So yeah, this wash looks really good. And they just have the 1 green oxide recipe. So I want to do 1 more and see if I can bump this up a step or 2. So to step it up, I'm going to do another wash, but instead of the green oxide, I'm going to go back to the turquoise we used from before. See, there's the callback. And same thing, 1 drop of paint, 2 drops of glaze medium, 3 drops of water with a little flow aid. This time I didn't mix a huge old pot, I mixed a much smaller pot. But I really want to focus this on just the bottoms of the letters. I'm not trying to go over the whole thing and add the highest value of, greens and blues on top of the metallics. I really just want to use this in the bottoms of the letters and maybe a little bit about around the edge of the frame. So I mixed up a good puddle of this, followed the same recipe, got the model wet like I did before, and started letting the natural capillary action of the water let this kind of slurry go where it wants to. Let this wash flow in the places that it needs to go. I wish it would almost stay super illuminated like this, because it's got that super eerie, kind of creepy, ethereal look to it right now. But it's so thinned out, and letting it pool to the bottoms intentionally, I think it's going to give that really neat chalky look, and bring that green oxide up 1 more step as the lightest color in this aged patina that's accumulated, this weathering effect on this brass plaque, or bronze, sorry. So yeah, using a focus brush, going in, dotting this stuff in, it worked exactly like I wanted it to. I think this is perfect. There's 1 other idea I've got to make this pop. Hopefully, maybe it'll be wasted, but we'll see. 1 more idea. Okay, my other idea was to use a brown wash and come in and use it. Instead of trying to continue to build up the lights, let's go in and hint at some darks. So just like I did before with the other 2 washes, I'm using some brown wash, and I got the model wet again, and I'm using the way water flows to get this to run, except this time I'm holding it upside down, obviously, so it runs to the tops of all these letters, and it gives it 1 more level from a darkest dark to a lighter light across the span of the whole letter. Our gradient that goes from now dark brown to turquoise. And we're just focusing it on the topmost part of these letters. And yeah, if you put a little too much on, use your finger, use a Q-tip, whatever. I'm just trying to get a little bit in there. And I got impatient a few times, even pulled out my airbrush and sat there like blowing on it to get it to dry so that I could flip it back over and start these kind of grime trails. If you've ever looked at this sign, it's got some kind of streaking verdigris on it. So instead of trying to build up the streaks, I thought going in and adding some of the negative space would be easier. So using that same brown wash, I went in and just started to hint at little trails, little spaces under some of the channels in that metal, and where some of the negative space, like between the letters, the middle of the A, those little areas, would have little bits of variation in the surface maybe. So using this brown wash as my last detail, I think this was a good idea. It adds to the overall effect, and it was really easy to do. Yeah, turning a one-step process into a three-step process, but I think it's worth it. So, green oxide verdigris wash. Did it work? Hell yeah, it worked. I took it one step, maybe two steps further, doing the turquoise version of the same wash. But both of these methodologies worked out really well. The weathered bronze armor was the good base that I could start with on this plaque, and the verdigris wash gave me the idea to do the turquoise wash and then hit it with some brown and give it some extra detail. So yeah, I think both of these methodologies work. Did they work? Hell yeah. So yeah, go check them out. Dig around Methodologies on the Monument Hobbies Discord or Instagram. I'm sure you can find them all over the place. This worked out well. I'm really glad this experiment worked, and I'm glad I tried it. So thanks for watching. That's it. Did it work? Yeah, I think it did. Looking forward to trying some of these other methodologies from Monument Hobbies as well as other places. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps a lot. If you've got something to add to the conversation, drop a comment below. Share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Egghead Hobbies so you can catch up with all my videos. We'll see you soon.